Hello and welcome to another training video. Now in today's video what we're going to do is take a look at how you can create maps and make them thematic within Excel rather than using some advanced GIS software. So to start with, we'll just have a look here. This is a map of London boroughs, and I'm not going to go through how to create this, but initially if I just right click here and unprotect, if I click on one of these shapes within this image, the name of the shape is actually related to the name of the borough. Now, why this is relevant is because I also have a set of data, and my first column is the name of the boroughs, and then I have all related data to do with that borough. Now, I say all the related data. This is a table, and the table itself could be created from Power Query. So you could have this linked by borough name to live updating data on the internet, so for example showing current populations or anything like that, and as the website is updated with the data, then your Power Query will automatically refresh and you'll have the latest data to work with. Now what we're going to see here is how we can actually choose a column from within that data set, and we'll see that I have a choice of all the columns that are there. And this drop down is dynamic, so it will update according to whatever data is in that data set. And the first thing we'll see here is I've chosen an inner or outer London column, and all I've done is I've manually applied some color settings to these here. Now the way I did this is by simply clicking here and choosing one of them and then just applying a color to it. So I'll change these and I'll have my this is outer London, I'll have them colored in, let's say, dark blue. Then I'll change this to inner London, and my selection, which is data body range, stays selected, so I don't need to reselect. I'm going to make this let's make it light blue. Now if I just clear that filter there, we'll see that I have my different color schemes for inner and outer London. Now when I go back to my thematic map, what I can do is, making sure that I've got my inner and outer London columns selected here, I simply generate a theme. What it will do is it will pick up the colors from my data set, from the relevant cell within the column, and it will map that across to the items within my map. If I want to clear it, I simply click the button to clear the theme and they will go back to being grey. Now that's fine where we have what we call text individual values. So I could do that manually, to manually color these with whatever's relevant. So for example, if we had means of traveling to work, we might have bicycle as green, bus as a different color, and car as red, so that we can then see how the majority of people travel into work from different boroughs. Now where we have numeric value, we can do this slightly differently, because what I've got is I've got some options here. So I can choose a numeric value, so let's say population density, and now I've chosen that, and I can come down here and choose how many ranges I want this divided into. So I'm going to leave that set at 4, and I can now also choose what colors I want these to be. So I'm going to choose just choose a dark grey. Now this darker grey here, this will be my biggest value, and actually it will be the biggest quarter of the values because I've chosen 4 ranges, and this will be divided numerically by percentage. So the top 25% will be in that color, the next 25% will be in a faded version of that color, and so on. Now when I hit this button here to create ranges, what it did there was it went through the data set, and according to the numbers and whether they were in the top 25%, next 25%, next 25%, or next 25%, it allocated a different color to those cells. So now here on my thematic map, if I hit generate theme, it will apply those color values to my map. Okay, we'll do one more and then we'll have a look at something else. So I'm going to choose a different one up here, and I'm going to choose the average age in 2017. I'm going to give a color to my ranges, and I will say dark red. Now, remembering dark red will be the oldest area, and a lighter version of that will be the younger versions. Click on Create Ranges. That has now created all the ranges within the data, and you can see there we've got the column created. My older people are in the darker colors and my youngest people are in the lightest colors. Remember, these are average ages across the different boroughs, so there shouldn't be too much difference between them. But if we go back to our map thematic and generate the theme, we can now see that because I've created those ranges as a percentage based upon the numbers within that range of data, although there's only a small variation, I can now see that variation on my map. And of course, again, to get rid of this theme, I simply hit clear theme and it goes back to the grey map. Now, there is one other thing I've added here, and this is a transparency setting. And what I could do is I could say make this, let's say, 50% transparent, and I hit clear theme, and you can now see that this has made the boroughs 50% transparent. So if I now say generate the theme, that maintains the transparency from when I last hit clear theme. Now, the reason for doing this is I might want to have another base map actually underneath, so I could take a picture of maybe London areas showing streets, and have that, as long as I have it sent to the back of all my objects in Excel, and I'd need to make sure it's lined up and sized correctly as well. That's just an extra option that I've got there. I'm going to turn that off for now. So I clear the theme again, having set the transparency to 0, and that will now maintain a 0 transparency. So if I now generate the theme, it's got 0 transparency. Now, this is all well and good, and there are actually lots of different resources which are fantastic for creating this for using London boroughs which are already out there. So let me just show you a couple of them, because the London Data Store has some brilliant resources for doing exactly that. So they have maps for qualitative or quantitative data. Now, this is data based upon numbers, and for categorical, which is based upon individual values, so text values. Loads of different background maps, 2018 boundaries of the boroughs, you've got individual boroughs, you've got Greater London all told. So that will give you an example map of basically what we just looked at there. Now, if I just go into a preview here for this one, so mapping template, does take a minute to load up, and you'll see what they've got there, and they have the close that bit down so we have a bit more space on the screen. And if now what we have here is we have what I think is quite a busy map. There's a lot going on the screen. You have all the different boroughs and they're color coded based upon values that you could just paste into here. Now, you do have to be slightly careful with this. You need to make sure that you paste them in exactly the right order that they are here. So whatever data source you get your data from, make sure you paste them in. Or what you could do is you could do VLOOKUP on the name of the borough and relate it to your data source that you're getting it from. Now, both of those are going to be quite slow and manual ways of doing it. However, this is still a fantastic resource and really worth going to and downloading. So if you just search for data.london.gov.uk and then go into the data to have a look at the data sets. They also have the raw data itself, so rather than having the maps, you can download the raw data, and this I think would be a preferable way of doing it. And then what you can do, of course, is you can analyze this data using a Power Query to create your table, which I'm using in my Excel here. So to create a table here from Power Query, which will then have all the data by borough. Now, as I say, this is all well and good, but not everyone lives in London, not everyone's interested in data to do with London, and sometimes companies are interested in mapping things which are to do with a production line, for example, rather than actually mapping them in a geographical manner. So here I have an example where I have various different stages in a production line, and what we have is we have the number of errors which are picked up in the goods at various different points in the production line. We also have put in a rectification factor, or a factor that we multiply by to give us the impact of those errors which are found at the different points. So for example, if they're found on goods in, it doesn't have too much of an impact on our customers because immediately we can return them to the supplier, and if we've ordered them in enough time, it's not going to delay production too much. However, if we find them at later stages in the production, like for example if it's the customer who finds them, that actually has a big impact on our reputation, and it's going to cost us much more to rectify the faults. Now what we have down here, like I say, is the list of how many faults are currently being found at each of these points, and when we multiply by the cost to rectify factor, we end up with our impact factor overall. Now all I've done is I've simply color coded these again by going down here, putting a number filter, and I chose the top 10, and I went through and said the top 75%. So rather than having items, we chose it in percentage, and I simply went through and chose 100%, 75%, 50%, 25% to apply the colors on here. Now what we can do once we've done that is simply hit the button here, and it color codes these different points within my production line according to the data there. Now of course the manager might not need to see that, so we can hide those columns, but this very quickly shows us what the current state is. And again, this is a table. This table could well have been created using Power Query, and it could be linking to your current list of faults, maybe for today or this week or this month, and as soon as you hit click me, it will update with the latest color code for each of these points on the production line. Okay, if you're interested in this, if it's something you want to see more of, just make a comment down below, or get in touch with me, and I'll put together some more videos. I'll show you how you can create the maps from scratch, and take you through the steps that you need to actually set up the data, and we'll look at even doing this with a Power Query. So I hope this has been useful, and of course once more, thank you for listening.